What is your biggest fear and the biggest hope about your children or your grandchildren's future? Too much screen, addiction, lack of empathy. So many of our hopes, but also our fears are connected with the technology. All have so many fears about technology. But let me tell you that none of this is effective to the fullest. Technology is here to stay. I'm going to start with a question. Okay, so my first question to you today is that what is your biggest fear and the biggest hope about your children or your grandchildren's future? Something that you fear in a big way or something that you're very hopeful about. Yes, absolutely valid. We all want that our children lead happy, meaningful lives. Absolutely addiction to phone, disconnection from nature, very, very important. Too much screen, addiction, lack of empathy. Okay, so of course you can, keep thinking about this even after we finish this. But it's very true. And this is something, that I have time and again observed with my interaction with parents, that so many of our hopes, but also our fears are connected with the technology. And with technology, I also mean that disconnection, with nature. So, as parents and teachers, we have this love hate relationship with technology these days. So, we are very excited about the opportunities and the efficiency it brings, no doubt. We are also hopeful about, at least some things in the bright future it may create for our children. But we are also very suspicious about what it is stealing from us, and we are downright fearful that it might be just snatching away our children from us, not just physically, but, like they won't have the same values, they'll not respect our own culture. So we all have so many fears about technology. So while we are aware that the potential of technology is there to change the human lives for better, it is natural that, what we constantly hear and read about AI, social media, and digital technology, it really makes us anxious. Because see what happens that ideally everyone should be responsible for creating safe environment, safe enriching media environment for our children. So tech companies, businesses, governments, everyone. But unfortunately, when it comes to harms and risk to children, in most cases, everyone else gets scot-free, and the ultimate blame is pushed to parents that, well, your children, you should have looked after them, which is not fair because, every stakeholder has a role to play in this. But so ultimately, we always say that what were the parents doing, So, for example, the kind of things that I have been coming across, on social media, in news. So I'll just read out a few things. So I just read that a new study found that 1 in 6 internet using children across Africa and Asia experience technology facilitated child sexual abuse and exploitation. There are constant instances of data theft, cyberbullying, social media addiction, and mental health issues related to AI use that are reported from every part of the world. Deepfake is affecting mental health of teenagers and also have already driven some to end their lives. Teens are getting addicted to online gambling. That's the recent report that I read. And young people are turning to chatbots as companions and therapists, which again has its own consequences. So it is very, very normal and natural that as parents and grandparents, we are anxious. So I have now another question for you. And I'll again just request you to put the responses in the chat that when you read something like this, what is your knee-jerk reaction? How do you, immediately get into action? What do you start doing? I remember the movie Hindi Medium where the mother, as soon as she would notice something, her thought process would go like 5 steps further that abhi, he'll do this. So now naturally the next thing is a drug and then, he will get into a criminal ring. So if you are a parent like that, you very quickly start experiencing the doom. Yes. So you do time restriction, you start correcting your children or maybe the situation. What else? How many of you are in favor of banning social media, under the age of 16, which is happening in a lot of countries? Right, we also start snooping. Trisha, you are in favor? Okay. Yes, for the social media ban. So there are some people who are in favor of banning. That is what we usually see that, we start supporting banning because we think that, okay, no social media, no problems. But it's rather simplistic because lots of studies are already showing that it's not working the way we think it would work. And it's much more complicated than that. Or we start enforcing very strict rules at home, how many times, like I've told you to do this, like 15 minutes over, stop this, that kind of a thing. There's a lot of suspicion and surveillance. Okay, what was that site that I suddenly saw you closing? That kind of thing. Why are you in the basement looking at your phone? Okay. Or if you feel helpless, there is just, silent worry that, okay, what is going to happen to my kid? But let me tell you that none of this is effective to the fullest without a thoughtful and nuanced execution. Right? Also, there are other ways of approaching media and technology in our children's lives. So I would say that we love it or hate it. I mean, we have to accept that technology is here to stay. So understanding it, making friends with it, using it safely and smartly, that's to our best advantage as parents and also to the advantage of our children. And this is what the talk is about. Okay, so I have another question for you. I hope you don't mind me asking these questions. So, how do you handle living and working in very diverse groups? Those who are working in environments where there are people from all different cultures and countries, working with you, living with you in the same townships, in the same colonies. Your children are friends with children from all different cultures, religions, countries. Do you look at it positively or with fear? What's the normal response to this? Do you this situation is something very enriching or something, yes, as you said, producing anxiety? And certainly many parents have told us that, when they see that their child is friends with somebody who's totally different, it does produce anxiety in them. We usually then become uneasy. We have the stranger danger alerts in our mind, and then we advise our child that stick to the in group, be with people who are like us and not different. And this is the second part of the talk, that how do we handle diversity, which is going to increase in workspaces, in living spaces, in families. And this is the second part of the talk. Now, before we move to the strategies for parents for navigating digital media and diversity, it will be helpful for us to understand that what are some unique challenges of rising generation alpha, which is like right now the youngest cohort, growing up. So unlike me, was like us, we're like from baby boomers or Gen X, we were all digital immigrants. We were not born in the media saturated environment. But unlike us, the parents of Gen Alpha are not new to technology, I would say, because they have already experienced technology, occupying a more central space in their lives. But at the same time, I think no recent cohort of parents has had to admit so openly how uncertain they feel about future ready. What does future ready even mean for their children, right? Because norms that were once they felt very solid are now wobbling. Advice that worked yesterday, suddenly it's not working anymore. So the more we understand the world that Gen Alpha is growing up in, the better we can help to build it and thrive in this kind of world. So how do you see your kids' childhood as different from yours? Like, which is like one big difference that you have observed between your childhood and your children's childhood? Okay, they encounter friends with ulterior motives. I agree that past innocence is rapidly disappearing. Playtime in open has reduced to a great extent. And even when it is playtime in the open, it's more structured. That informal, unstructured play is completely gone. There is definitely more technology, more affluence. Yes, I agree. Food adultery, yes, that's also true. So we agree that though certain things about childhood has still remain intact, is that parents still play a very important part in a child's life. There are lots of ways, their childhood is different. So let's just see, how is Gen Alpha's childhood different, right? So very first thing I would say is that connectivity, AI, gadgets, these are not features for them to be adopted. They are utilities. As unremarkable, I see another point. They don't need parents for consultation. Yes, Google and chatbot is here, very true. And we don't want that to happen, so that's our role is more important. Yeah, their curiosities get validated through a screen. Yes, I absolutely agree. And that's what I was just going to say, that for them, screens and connectivity are like what electricity is for us. We just take its presence for granted. And this matters because policy, schooling, parenting, everything, everybody who has been from the past generations, we all treat technology as an add-on, something that we have to add to our life. Whereas they think that it's an integral part of life. It's like what is water to the fish. So technology has become a social environment. And it's not just a set of gadgets the way we saw it. So technology structures their attention, it mediates their relationships, and it shapes choices long before we even notice. Right? The second big thing is diversity is now a daily reality for a lot of urban people. Yeah, I think we should discuss this. A China model doesn't work in India. So right, China, a lot of time has just stuck to its homegrown technology, whereas like we are free to experience the global technology, and it has both positives and some limitations. So what we see is that earlier, diversity used to be like a theme in annual day program, or maybe there was one diversity day in the school. But now it's a daily reality of your classroom, of playgrounds. We also, families are becoming more diverse because there are so many more, intercaste, intercountry, interreligion marriages. There is urban rural interactions. Also, children now come across so many different kind of identities and experiences. So the debates around all these things which didn't even enter our lives as children have already entered these children's lives, and these debates have already begun, very early. Even like in large metros, or if you have worked abroad, you will have observed that a single classroom, would have so many languages, so many new names, pronouns, holidays from so many traditions. And for us, it is something that has been newly introduced to our lives. But for Gen Alpha, they are again growing up in this environment, which they assume is natural. So now the thing is that the question for us adults is not whether we should permit these conditions. These conditions are not waiting for our permission. So we just have to think that, okay, how do we steward them so that, human judgment, dignity, and care, they stay at the center? Because ultimately, we really want to make sure that these things don't disappear. Like as somebody said, you're worried about empathy missing from children's lives. So that should be our focus. We should also remember that Gen Alpha's earliest memories have been formed during COVID years, right? So that has left its impact. So it has always been a combination of constraints and improvisation, right? So mostly these are kids born from 210 onwards. So they've experienced COVID, and COVID just didn't introduce them to technology. It normalized hybrid life. So we even find it a point of discussion whether a hybrid work environment is good or not. They have taken it for granted that this is how life is. So school easily moved between kitchen and the classroom. Their pediatrician delivered advice via screen. They are equally comfortable forming friendships across a neighborhood and across a server. It doesn't really make a big difference to them. And its practical implication is their flexibility is not a perk for this generation. It is their default operating mode. So as soon as they feel any rigidity, any rigid schedules, rigid rules, and lack of flexibility, you will see them revolting. So this is one big truth about Gen Alpha. They are not comfortable with rules built for a single channel instruction or 9 to 5 strict schedules, or when things don't give them opportunity to adapt. So this is something that we have to think about. And what happens is that because we think that, we start technology and we stop it, but for them, technology is running in the background. And this actually gives, it and brings forth a lot of tension and anxiety. This also has a huge implication for learning again, which is again headache for many parents because they don't learn the way we learn. And some of our worry is legitimate also, like they have such short attention spans. When they cannot listen to long lectures, they cannot focus for a very long time. But I've also seen that when you give them something to really create and innovate and work, with their brain and hands, they can spend hours on it. Right? So instead of hour-long drills and trudges, they would prefer maybe 10 minutes break.